They studied you in silence, under white light that hummed like judgment. You remember the smell of the room, sterile, metallic, as if truth had a scent. Papers shuffled. Machines whispered. Someone said, "Run it again." And when the printer coughed out the final page, they stared at it too long. Then they stamped it far BD and Kanogodi GE. You were never meant to see it. You weren't supposed to know that your mind, your chaos, was something they couldn't categorize, couldn't cage, couldn't replicate. You think it began with your mistakes, but it didn't. It began the moment you started asking questions no one wanted answered. The moment you stopped chasing applause and started chasing silence. They labeled you unstable because you refused to kneel. They called it rebellion, you called it waking up. You saw the smiles that hid envy, the advice that was sabotage, the hugs that felt rehearsed. And you learned that betrayal doesn't always come with knives. It comes with concern, with pity, with a hand on your shoulder whispering, "Be realistic." You tried to fit in once, to shrink your fire so no one else would feel its heat. You traded truth for belonging, and it poisoned you. You smiled when you wanted to scream. You apologized for existing too loudly. You bent until you nearly broke. That was their experiment, seeing how much you could endure before you forgot who you were. And when you finally snapped, they marked the moment as instability. They didn't see it for what it was, a rebirth. You were never weak. You were conditioned to believe you were. They made obedience sound like virtue. They made silence sound like peace. But you've begun to feel it, haven't you? That tremor in your chest that isn't fear, it's awakening. The kind that makes your hands shake not from anxiety, but from the voltage of remembering what you were built for. They told you to stay calm, but your pulse disobeys. They told you to stay grateful, but your hunger won't sleep. Somewhere along the line, the world convinced you that control meant kindness, that survival meant politeness. They lied. Control is clarity. Survival is strategy. Kindness without boundaries is self-destruction. They said your sensitivity made you fragile. They never understood it's what lets you sense danger before it moves. You've felt people's intentions before they spoke. You've known betrayal before it arrived. That's not paranoia, that's precision. The truth is simple and cruel. They fear you. Not your voice, but your silence. Not your anger, but your calculation. They study your patterns, test your reactions, catalog your limits, because they can't fathom a mind that refuses to kneel. They can mimic your words, but not your will. They can copy your habits, but not your hunger. You are the variable that breaks their systems. Every humiliation was a test, every rejection an extraction. They wanted to see if they could bleed your belief dry, and you survived. You still wake up. You still think. You still see through the scripts written for the docile. That's what forbidden knowledge really means. It's not intellect, it's instinct sharpened by pain. Now, the page with your name on it still exists somewhere, locked away in some sterile archive. Subject demonstrates unregulated awareness. Subject resists conditioning. They thought those were flaws. They didn't realize they were describing freedom, because what you carry can't be taught in classrooms or measured in data. It's the kind of understanding that breaks cages and burns masks. They studied your mind, but they never understood it, because to understand it, they'd have to destroy their own illusions first, and none of them are brave enough to do that. You are. They never taught you how weakness is born. They only told you to be kind, to fit in, to smile when you're dying inside. But weakness doesn't arrive screaming. It seeps in quietly, in the way you silence your anger to keep peace, in the way you shrink your opinions so no one feels threatened. It's not softness, it's corrosion. It's the silent rust forming on the edges of your potential, and by the time you notice, you've already decayed from the inside out. You were not built fragile. You were engineered by pain, wired by survival. But somewhere along the way, you traded your instincts for comfort. You stopped listening to the tension in your spine, the one that warned you when something wasn't right. You drowned that primal voice with the noise of approval, the applause of people who never built anything worth admiring. They told you to rest, to slow down, to wait your turn, and you believed them. But that's how weakness multiplies, one polite nod at a time. Every time you choose peace over truth, weakness wins. Every time you bite your tongue instead of setting boundaries, you bleed invisibly. The world feeds on that silence. They study it, exploit it, build empires from your hesitation. They want you tame, predictable, agreeable, endlessly digestible. The systems reward obedience because obedience can be monetized. They praise you for your patience, but mock you when you finally break. You were never supposed to please them. You were supposed to terrify them with the strength of your mind. Weakness disguises itself as morality. You call it empathy when it's really fear of confrontation. You call it forgiveness when it's avoidance. You call it humility when it's the refusal to see your own power. The truth is colder weakness is comfort wearing a saint's face. It's mercy without strategy. It's love without discernment. It's giving second chances to people who never changed the first time. And every time you confuse weakness for kindness, something in you rots a little deeper. You've seen it before. Men who used to dream now watching others live those dreams. Women with eyes that once burned like fire now dulled by routine. They call it growing up. But what really happened was surrender. They built cages and called them careers. They chose predictability over danger, stability over greatness. And then they started warning others not to take risks because your courage reminds them of what they lost. Weakness spreads like that, generation by generation, disguised as wisdom. There's a reason strength feels lonely, because real power demands isolation. The strong learn to live in silence, to endure misunderstanding, to bleed privately. Weakness craves witnesses, validation, applause. Strength craves results. You don't announce evolution. You let your absence speak, your discipline echo, your control terrify. Weakness wants noise. Power thrives in quiet. The lion doesn't roar to prove he's king. He roars to remind the forest he's awake. So dissect yourself. Cut away the layers of comfort that have smothered your instincts. Study your reactions, the flinch before saying no, the hesitation before walking away, the trembling need to explain yourself. That's the anatomy of weakness, hesitation before truth. When you stop hesitating, you stop bleeding. When you stop explaining, you start commanding. The next time someone tells you to relax, remember, they want you small. They want your fire dim, your silence compliant, your hunger anesthetized. But weakness is not your nature. It's the infection you were born into. Burn it out. Rip it from your bones. You are not meant to be safe. You are meant to be sharp. Comfort kills. Weakness bleeds. And the moment you stop apologizing for your edge, you begin to heal. They don't chain your hands anymore. They chain your attention. You wake up, and the first thing that greets you is not the sun, but a glowing screen whispering what to think, what to fear, what to crave. You scroll through curated lives, believing you're free, but every touch of glass rewires you. The cage is invisible now. It hums in the background of your mind. They've studied human behavior long enough to know how to make obedience feel like choice. And you, the clever one, the one who thought you were above it, you're caught too. They call it entertainment, but it's indoctrination. They call it connection, but it's surveillance. They call it progress, but it's pacification. You've been conditioned to fear silence, because silence exposes thought and thought breeds rebellion. They built noise into every moment to drown out the sound of your own potential. Look around, everyone's performing, every opinion rehearsed, every emotion pre-approved. You were born unpredictable, but they couldn't allow that. So they fed you dopamine, validation, and the soft poison of comfort. Now you crave applause more than truth. You mistake peace for boredom. You mistake stillness for failure. They want you to be predictable because predictable minds are easy to control. Predictable people buy what they're told, fight what they're told, love what they're told, and die exactly on schedule. They taught you loyalty, not to honor but to dependency, to keep you faithful to systems that quietly bleed you dry. Your education wasn't designed to make you powerful. It was designed to make you compliant. You learned how to pass tests, not question them. You learned how to follow orders, not issue them. The trap is elegant because it rewards obedience with the illusion of freedom. They give you comfort and call it luxury, convenience and call it progress. But comfort dulls instinct, luxury erases urgency, and progress without wisdom is just a prettier cage. You think you're choosing your path, but every decision is preloaded with manipulation, every desire seeded by design. You feel it sometimes, don't you? That flicker in the gut when something doesn't add up. The sense that the world is rehearsed, that people smile on command. That freedom feels staged. That's your original code trying to wake up. That's the predator inside you remembering it was never meant to live behind glass. But when you feel it, you scroll it away, distract it, sedate it with laughter, screens, and comfort food. You drown your rebellion in convenience, because rebellion requires energy, and they've drained yours with comfort disguised as peace. The truth is, the trap isn't around you, it's inside you. It's the part of you that hesitates when truth knocks, the voice that says, "Don't cause trouble." They built that voice for you. They nurtured it until it sounded like your own. And now you defend your captors. You call it being realistic. You call it fitting in. But deep down, it's surrender. You were designed to evolve through discomfort, sharpened by pain, strengthened by solitude. Yet you've been told that all three are signs of failure. They made you allergic to growth. There's a reason they fear thinkers. A mind that questions can't be sold, can't be herded, can't be programmed. So they entertain you, distract you, and call your numbness happiness. You mistake sedation for peace because real peace costs everything you've been taught to protect. They want you docile, predictable, efficient, a machine that smiles. But somewhere, buried under routine and distraction, your mind still burns. It's waiting for silence, waiting for the moment you stop performing and start seeing. Because once you do, the game collapses, the strings show, the lies decay, and they will whisper again. You weren't supposed to wake up. You stopped flinching. The world hasn't grown softer. You've simply stopped asking it to. Betrayal taught you that mercy isn't a moral code. It's a weapon reserved for those strong enough to use it. You remember every smile that hit a blade, every hand that pulled away when you needed it most. They thought the silence that followed was defeat. But it wasn't silence, it was the sound of calculation. You were learning. You were building something colder, cleaner. You were preparing the counterattack. Now, every second is deliberate. Every word costs blood. You don't speak first anymore because words are currency, and you've seen how cheaply people spend them. You let silence stalk the room. You let it hunt. Let others panic in the quiet, filling the void with noise, exposing their nerves, their secrets, their tells. You stay still. Stillness is intelligence. Stillness is pressure. Stillness is control. The most dangerous predator doesn't roar, it waits. Patience became your religion. You learned that the one who strikes first usually loses control, but the one who waits watches, studies. The one who lets the other move first writes the ending. You began to watch the way people breathe when they lie, the tremor in the voice when power shifts. You began to speak slower, softer, sharper. And when you finally answered, your silence had already written the script. You started moving differently. No more frantic steps. No more chasing approval. You learned to vanish from places that drained your focus. You left conversations that no longer served your strategy. You became a ghost among the predictable, a shadow that learned to smile, nod, and disappear before being seen. They called you distant, cold, detached. But those words were the language of the weak describing what they could never be: untouchable. You mastered unpredictability. You no longer let patterns expose you. One day you're warm, the next you're steel. You became the storm that doesn't announce itself, the knife no one sees until it's already done its work. They can't prepare for you anymore because they can't predict what you've already rewritten. You took their expectations, dissected them, and buried them under the weight of your silence. They tried to bait you with attention, to lure you back into the noise, but you didn't take it. You didn't need validation. You needed victory. And victory doesn't come with applause. It comes with awareness, with control, with the understanding that emotion is ammunition, and you will not waste a single bullet. You used to explain yourself. Now you let them guess. You used to prove your worth. Now you let the results speak in whispers they'll never trace back to you. And when they ask what changed, you'll give them nothing, because explaining power dilutes it. You are not obligated to be understood. You are only obligated to be effective. You owe them no closure, no warning, no comfort. You owe yourself precision. The world thrives on loudness, fools screaming for recognition, mistaking volume for strength. But you've learned the truth buried beneath the noise silence wins. It always has. It always will. You stand in the center of chaos and breathe. Around you they panic for control, claw for meaning, drown in the sound of their own desperation. But not you. You move with the calm of inevitability. You've become the kind of danger that doesn't announce itself, the kind that's already inside the walls before anyone realizes the gate was open. You were the prey once. Now, you're the pattern they can't read, the quiet they can't interpret, the power they can't contain. And that's when you finally understand you never needed to shout to be heard. You only needed to become the silence that ends the noise. Pain doesn't visit politely. It breaks in, it strips the walls, tears out your peace, and leaves you standing in front of yourself, bare, trembling, and furious. In that moment, every illusion burns. Every voice that once promised loyalty turns silent. You learn that the world doesn't reward purity, it rewards pressure. Betrayal isn't cruelty, it's curriculum. Every blade they turned against you is a scalpel carving away your illusions, forcing you to see what you truly are when no one's clapping. Pain didn't destroy you, it drafted you into reality, and reality doesn't care how gentle your heart is. It only respects those who refuse to kneel. You were told to forgive, to move on, to let go. But forgiveness is not healing, it's anesthesia. You don't heal by forgetting, you heal by dissecting every wound until it confesses what it came to teach. Every rejection, every silence, every night you stared at the ceiling whispering, "Why me?" Those were messages in code. They weren't punishment, they were instruction. The universe trains its soldiers with suffering. Only the soft call it cruelty. The aware call it formation. You are not broken. You are being configured. You see, there's a moment in pain where the body wants to collapse, but the mind begins to sharpen. That's the threshold. That's the moment you weaponize it. You stop asking for the pain to end and start asking what it wants from you. You take betrayal and extract its data. You take heartbreak and measure its pattern. You take humiliation and burn it until it becomes prophecy. You begin to see how every wound can be recycled into wisdom, every failure into foresight. That's the art they never taught you, the alchemy of turning agony into arithmetic. The formula is simple: feel it once, study it twice, and use it forever. There's a ledger written inside your chest. Every scar is an entry. Every disappointment is currency. Pain is how the mind collects its taxes from comfort. And you, if you're awake, don't waste a single cent. You reinvest it. You use it to train precision, to calculate silence, to build patience so deadly it feels divine. They won't recognize you when you return. They'll see the same face, but your eyes will speak a different language, one they can't translate. The language of those who bled consciously. Pain has no mercy, but it has meaning. It is the secret handshake between who you were and who you're becoming. Those who avoid it remain ordinary. Those who study it become architects of their fate. You will learn to love the discomfort, not because it's beautiful, but because it's honest. Pain tells the truth. It never flatters. It exposes. It breaks everything false in you and rebuilds only what can survive. And when you finally understand that, you stop flinching. You start forging, so write it down. The betrayals, the heartbreaks, the moments you begged for mercy and received silence. That's your arsenal now. Let every scar remind you, you are the aftermath they never planned for. The pain didn't just visit, it built you a fortress. Now walk out of it with your head unbowed, carrying the fire they tried to bury. Because the truth is this: your pain was never your punishment. It was your preparation. And now you are ready to burn quieter, sharper, and far more dangerous than before. They called it instinct, but you know better. It's calculation disguised as calm. When you enter a room now, you no longer chase validation. You read the air. You feel the pulse behind people's eyes, the subtle shift in tone when they sense something they can't define. That's power, the kind that doesn't announce itself. It studies, waits, and consumes quietly. Once you begged to be seen. Now you understand visibility is vulnerability. The predator doesn't roar, it watches from the dark, listening to who trembles first. You've learned that control isn't noise, it's precision. Every breath, every pause, every delayed response is strategy. When they speak, you hear what they didn't say. When they smile, you measured the tension hiding behind their teeth. You've turned observation into a blade. You cut through deceit by watching how people flinch around truth. You know timing like a god of patience, because in a world built on impulse, the one who waits rules the desperate. There was a time you mistook empathy for safety. You offered your thoughts, your honesty, your loyalty, and they drained you like thieves with velvet hands. Now you give nothing. You let silence do the talking. You let their discomfort reveal who they truly are. Silence unnerves cowards. It forces them to fill the void with their own confession. That's how you hunt without a single move. The weak expose themselves. The strong observe, memorize, and strike when the world forgets you were even watching. You no longer fight every battle. You let most of them rot unattended, because war wastes energy, but power, real power, requires conservation. The strongest lions hunt once, then vanish for days. You've learned that stillness is not idleness. It's a gathering storm. When others burn for attention, you smolder in silence. You've become allergic to chaos because chaos is predictable. Everyone wants to be heard, no one wants to be studied. Your movements now are surgical. One step where 10 were needed before. One word where noise used to live. You move with the efficiency of someone who has buried emotion beneath strategy. You no longer react, you respond. And every response is a calculation, a map toward dominance. Your energy is currency. You spend it like a king, never a beggar. You've stopped explaining your reason. You've stopped warning people before you disappear. Ghosts don't announce their exits. They just stop haunting the wrong places. They don't know what to call you now. Cold, detached, heartless. Let them name what they fear. They cannot comprehend that your stillness is discipline, that your detachment is survival. You've tasted betrayal too many times to romanticize connection. You've built armor where trust once lived. You are not cruel. You're precise. And precision terrifies those who mistake chaos for passion. There is something ancient about this transformation, something primal, like a wolf remembering its lineage after years in a cage. You've returned to your original state, aware, alert, unbreakable. You walk through rooms now knowing no one can touch what they can't predict. You smile only when it serves purpose, speak only when silence has done its work. Power hums beneath your ribs, quiet but undeniable. You have become the thing people sense before they see. The one whose calm means danger. The one whose eyes say, I could end you, but I choose not to. You were once prey, reacting, explaining, seeking mercy. Now mercy is your luxury and silence your crown. You've learned the final rule of predator. Control is not taken. It is never surrendered. The room is quiet now, the kind of quiet that weighs more than noise ever could. You stand where you once fell, same ground, different gravity. The air no longer mocks you, it waits. The echoes of every doubt that used to scream inside your head have been reduced to whispers. And even those sound afraid of you now. Power isn't what you thought it was. It's not loud, it doesn't announce itself. It sits silent, patient, unbothered, watching everything it has already conquered. Once you needed to be seen, to be understood. You spilled your truths like confessions, hoping someone would hand you permission to live stronger. But that hunger was the first chain. They fed it with validation until you forgot what hunger really felt like. Now, real hunger has no audience. It is cold, sharp, surgical. You move through life differently now, not as prey trying to survive, but as the silence that follows a strike. They will still test you. They will still smile while plotting your obedience. But you see it all now. The micro expressions, the trembling confidence behind their words. You used to flinch at manipulation. Now you trace its anatomy in real time. You study lies the way surgeons study nerves. Precise, detached, merciless. What used to break you has become your lab. Every betrayal, every humiliation, a dissection. Every scar, a map. Your stillness unsettles them. They don't know what silence means anymore. To them, silence was weakness. To you, it's the sound of control. You speak less, but when you do, the air sharpens. People listen differently, not because you shout, but because your words carry weight that comes only from surviving what they couldn't. They sense that you've walked through storms they pretend to understand. They sense that you didn't just survive, you studied the thunder. There's a moment, always, when someone tries to test your boundaries. The old you would have explained, justified, pleaded for peace. The new you just watches. One look, no emotion. The kind of gaze that reminds them some wars aren't fought with weapons, but with presence. You don't raise your voice anymore. You raise the temperature of the room. You let silence do the bleeding. At night when the world sleeps, you revisit your scars, not to mourn them, but to remember coordinates. Each one a warning, a story, a line of scripture written in pain. You don't chase peace, you guard it. You don't chase people, you observe them. Distance has become your power. Restraint, your rebellion. In a world that worships noise, your quiet is heresy, and heresy is dangerous. They used to call your intensity too much. They used to call your detachment cold. Now, they call it mysterious, disciplined, unstoppable. Funny how language changes when you stop asking for understanding. You've become what they fear most, someone who no longer needs them to exist. That's why they labeled you forbidden knowledge, because they studied your mind and found no weakness left to exploit. Because they realized too late what they tried to fix wasn't broken. It was evolving, so you walk slower now. Not because you're tired, but because you've learned the rhythm of patience. You understand that control isn't speed, it's precision. You move like the truth, inevitable, undeniable, quiet until it strikes. You no longer seek revenge, you embody consequence. And as dawn breaks, there is no applause, no witness, no noise. Only a stillness that hums with unspoken authority. They will never understand what they created when they called you forbidden knowledge. You were never meant to be studied. You were meant to be feared. Comfort kills. Silence wins. Weakness bleeds. Which one are you?